Hey, seventh graders, Miss Sherman here. I just wanted to talk to you about your science notebooks. So when you're choosing a science notebook, it's really important that you pick the size that says 9 by 11. And the reason that's so important is we want to be able to take a full-size sheet of paper and we want to be able to glue it into our notebook without having to cut anything. So this is going to be a huge time saver for you for the year. So make sure you get one that is the 9 by 11 size. I also highly recommend you choose one with a plastic cover. They definitely last longer than the ones with the paper cover. So something to know. You are encouraged to decorate your science notebook. I will do that later and then I'll show you. And Sharpies work really well on this type of surface. So when you open up your notebook, one of the first things that you're usually going to see in the plasticky covered notebook is a folder. And this is really helpful for keeping track of papers that we haven't glued in yet. So if you take your folder and you get the right size of notebook, the 9 by 11 size, you should be able to fit a full sheet of paper in that folder without having to fold it, just like that. So that is going to be a great thing for you. Now we're going to start to number our notebook. So I'm going to move the folder aside so that I'm looking at the very first page. When we number our pages, we're going to number them in the outside corner, the corner that is not the side with the spiral, because then when we're looking for pages, we can just flip through and find exactly what we're looking for. So the way that we're going to set this up is going to be a little complicated, so I really want you to follow along with me. Please do not just start and do all of the numbers. There we go. Okay. So our first page number, we are starting with reference pages and the table of contents. So our first page number is going to be represented by Roman numerals. And the Roman numeral for 1 looks like the lowercase of the letter I. So let me show you what that looks like. It looks like that. Okay? Now we need to do 5 pages of Roman numerals. So I have my page 1. Actually, let me open my notebook back like this so you can see the folder. Then I'm going to flip to the very next page. Okay? So on this side is going to be my page 2. And page 2 in Roman numerals is going to look like 2 lowercase letter i's. Just like that. Then next to it is going to be page 3 in Roman numerals, which is 3 little lowercase i's. I. Just like that. Then we're going to do page 4. So flip again. And on the left side of your notebook, we are going to do the Roman numeral for 4, which is a lowercase I and then a lowercase v. So it's going to look like that. And the page next to it is going to be Roman numeral 5, which is just the lowercase v. And it looks like that. That's our Roman numeral section. Now we're going to move on to letters. So after Roman numeral V or 5, I'm going to flip the page. And now these are going to be reference pages with like things that you're going to look back on. These are not going to be assignments. These are just going to be pages that you glue in. So we're going to start with that next page right after V, and it's going to be letter A. So please use a capital letter A, just like that. Then on the next page, you're going to do a capital letter B. And you're going to go until you get to the letter I. So I have my A, B, and I'm going to flip it and do letter C, letter D, letter E, letter F, letter G, letter H, and then letter I. So once I get to my letter I page, then I have something next to it with nothing. Now we start normal numbers. So this is where it gets a lot easier. So the next page next to letter I is going to be page number 1. So we're going to do page number 1. And then we're going to flip and we're going to number the rest of our pages all the way until we get to the end of our notebook. So we have page 1, then I'm going to flip page 2, then page 3. And again, notice how I'm writing in these outside corners right here. That's going to be really important. Then we go to 4 and 5 until you get to the end of your notebook. So I'll be right back. One day later. Up it changed. All right, so I have numbered my notebook all the way until the last page, which for me ended up being 186. Even though it's a 100 sheet notebook and we're writing on both sides, we'd think it'd go up to 200, but because we did all those things with the Roman numerals and the letters, I got to 186. So now that all of my pages are numbered in this corner, I am pretty good to go. So I'm going to go through the first couple pages and help you get those set up. So on the very, very front page, the one right next to the folder and the front cover, okay? This one is page lowercase I. This is where I glue my syllabus in, so I'm just going to put the title of syllabus. And then in parentheses, I'm going to put glue in later. You might already have it, but when I'm doing this, I don't have it yet. I don't have them printed. Okay, so syllabus that I can glue in later. And don't forget, if you need to pause the video, you can pause the video. Okay. Okay, now the next page, page number II, Roman numeral 2. This is going to be our first table of contents page. So at the top, I'm going to write table, TABLE, of, OF, contents, CONTENTS. Just like that. Now, for our table of contents, we're going to make 3 columns. So we're going to have this one on the side of the red line, and I'm going to write date, because when we add things, we're going to add the date. Then we're going to have the page title. And then we're going to have the page number.
Good morning.
So now that my first page of my table of contents on II is done, it has the 3 columns up at the top that we need. It has the page, or has the date, the page title, and the page number. I'm sorry, it's a little messy. Then we're going to do that again on the next page. We're going to end up with 4 pages for our table of contents. This is on III, or Roman numeral 3. Then when we flip it, I also set it up on Roman numeral 4. And then I also set it up on Roman numeral 5. So all you need are those 3 columns. Oops, there we go. Okay, for all of them. Now we can start to fill in our table of contents since we already know a little bit of our information. So I'm going to go back to our very first page of table of contents, which is the one that says the II. I'm going to put today's date in the left-hand column. And then that first page, I know it's going to be the syllabus, so I'm going to put the page title as syllabus. And then for the page number, I'm going to use a lowercase I because that's our Roman numeral 1. Now, the next thing that we did in our table of contents was our table of contents. So our table of contents is going to go in our table of contents. Got it. Okay. I'm again going to put today's date. And then I'm going to write table of contents. Now for page number, I'm going to write it like this. And I want you to wait until I show you. So here you can see my first entries for my table of contents. The syllabus is shown with the date, and then over here it shows page lowercase I. And then for our table of contents, since we have multiple pages and it goes from page II to V, I just did I through V because otherwise we have to write table of contents 4 times. But instead, we can just show the range of pages that it falls on, like that. Okay? All right, so now we have our notebook numbered, we have our table of contents set up, and we have our first 2 entries in our table of contents. Ms. Dominguez is going to show you what goes in all of the lettered pages next. Ready and go.
Thanks, Ms. Sherman. For those that don't know me, I am Mrs. Dominguez. I am just going to go through what we're going to do with those resource pages that Ms. Sherman was talking about. So you are going to receive in class essentially a packet of papers. And all these papers, they got to go in our notebook. So I am going to explain what these pages are, where they go in our notebook, and give you some tips on how to glue them in. One thing we do typically like to use is liquid glue. It works so much better at keeping the pages in your notebook over the course of the year. A glue stick, a lot of times they are going to weaken, that glue's going to weaken, the pages are going to fall out. And since this essentially is our textbook, this is what you're going to use to study. Your science notebook is going to hold all that information for you to look at. We want to keep it as best as possible. So one of the first things you're going to have is a paper that says Interactive Notebook Guidelines. And so it looks like this. It is a half sheet. It is not a full sheet of paper. And this is going to actually go on the inside of our cover. So I'm going to flip my notebook. This is the back side of my cover. If I open it, you can see the front. Now I have the back. I am going to look to glue this just on the top half so that I can still use my folder, because my cover has a little folder in it. I may use it, may not, but I don't want to block it off with this information. Maybe your cover doesn't have a folder, so you can kind of put it across the middle. But this is going to be a great resource when looking at our notebook checks, what our notebooks need to have, and just some reminders of bring your notebook every day, and that we want this notebook to be for science only. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue this to the back of my cover. When I'm gluing a piece of paper that doesn't have a back, I put little dots in each corner. So I just do a small dot in the 4 corners, and then I glue it to secure it to the page. So I'm going to do that right now. Just do a little small dot for each corner. I don't want to have too much glue, because you probably all know that when you put too much glue on a piece of paper, it gets really crinkly. So we want to avoid that. So again, I have little dots in the corner, as you can see. I am going to glue this onto the back of my cover, and it'll take a little bit to dry, but there we go. Ms. Sherman, I know, also mentioned that first page, her lowercase I Roman numeral, it's going to be the syllabus. So you should have a copy of your syllabus. This is also going to be printed, glued on here. However, our syllabus is double-sided. And so when we glue a page that is double-sided, you are going to actually put glue along the inside edge of the paper. So for example, if this was my paper, I know it's not double-sided, but just as an example, if I was to put this in my notebook and I want it to open like a book, I'm going to do a line of glue on the back of this page, just along here. And I'm going to kind of be really light again on that glue, so that when it's glued, I can still open and see the back. So that's what we're going to have to do with our syllabus. I may add that in the end once I get mine printed and ready for you. So the rest of these pages, what we did is we did write the letter in the corner for what page it goes on. So this page is our COSTA's levels of inquiry. And so this is going to go on page A in our resource section. The graph expectations, this is going to go on page B. So you are going to have your packet, and you are going to have to glue each page on its appropriate letter. So I'm going to start here. I have that COSTA's level of inquiry. I'm going to flip to my notebook page A, and I'm going to show you quickly. So I am now on page A. And I am going to glue, like I did with the interactive notebook guidelines, I'm just going to put little dots in the corner, since it is just one-sided. And I have those dots again, as you can see. And I'm going to glue it so that none of the page kind of hangs off the edge. So apologize for the technical shuffle there, but I have it so that it's not hanging off the edge. It's just flush in line with the edge of my paper. And I have that first page on here. And as you can see, the A on the page is visible so that I can still know what page I'm on, and I can use that with my table of contents. The next page is my graph expectations. That is on letter B. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take this, I'm going to put some glue, just a little bit on each corner, and then I'm going to glue this into my notebook on my page B. And I'm going to continue to do this with every resource page. So I have my graph expectations. I'm going to flip so that I'm on page C, and I'm going to do the same for C and D. C and D, these are scientific root word prefixes and suffixes. So these are going to be great when we're learning new vocabulary. We're going to maybe have some words that we're really unfamiliar with, but all of our vocabulary words that we talk about, they come from other words, and they may come from Greek or Latin words that mean something else. And so, for example, we're going to learn about photosynthesis, and I may ask you to use this page to break down the word photosynthesis. And if you were to look on here, there is a prefix of photo, and that means light. And so right then and there, I know that photosynthesis has to do with light. So I now have these two pages on. I have my C and my D. The next set of pages, E, F, and G, are going to be avid processing strategies. So these may be, you may, at a time during the year, we're going to talk about a new concept. We may ask you to choose one of these options to do a mini project on, or a mini worksheet on. So that is where these are all those options, different explanations so that you can use it. Then, and that actually is going to go across 3 pages. So I have E, F, and G. So I'm going to flip and do my G. And then I'm almost done. I got 2 more to go. So my H is a reference page for measuring and microscopes. It is going to have information on when we measure length, volume, mass, and then a little picture labeled of the microscope. Since we are going to use those different tools this year, we want you to have this just as a reference. So if you forget, we can say, hey, open to page H and look at your reference page. Remember, we talked about this. Last and not least is our science abstract assignment requirements. There may be points where we watch a video, where we read an article, and we are going to be asked to summarize the article, critique it, and relate it back to yourself. So this is going to be that protocol. This is going to be the instructions for that assignment. It's always going to be in our notebook, so that when that time occurs where we are looking at an article, we're looking at a video, whether it's a TED Talk or some other educational resource, we can ask you to go to page I, and you have your instructions right then and there, and we know kind of what our expectations are for that assignment. So I think I got them all glued. Let's check. So I got that science abstract. H is my measuring and microscope reference. Oh, there it is. G is the 3rd page of those avid strategies for assignments. E and F are also those other 2 pages. So there's 9 kind of options per page. C and D, those are my scientific root words, prefixes, reference sheet. And A and B, my COSTAs, level of inquiry, and my graph expectations. So now that we have these in, We got to add them to our table of contents. And I know Ms. Sherman talked about how important table of contents is. So I have already done that. We do have a digital version of our table of contents if you ever miss any information and you know what you need to put in there. But essentially what I did for my table of contents is I listed what the page was. So I had my Costas levels of inquiry, I had my graph, my root words, those AVID processing assignments, my resources for measurement and microscope, and then that requirement science protocol information. And then I listed the letter or couple letters that those pages fall on. So for example, those AVID strategies, they were from E through G. So remember how Ms. Sherman said we can do a range of pages? We did the same thing when we talked about those root words and those AVID strategies. Please come to us if you have any questions. We want to help you out. We also have our own notebook set up. So we have this information for you to use as well. But you will get those pages in class, and the expectation is they are glued in. So we were going to have A through I as a reference section in our notebook. We are going to start on page 1. And if you actually take a look at the digital contents, you can see that this is going to be a title page for our measurement and graphing unit. We're going to start there this year. Looking forward to this year. I hope you all had a wonderful summer. Even if I don't have you for science, I hope you're having a great day, and I look forward to a great year ahead. Okay, so one more thing. I know I said about the syllabus and how we glue it in. I did kind of show you, but I wanted to actually do it so that you can see it. So my syllabus, double-sided. Ms. Sherman's, double-sided. Ms. Maddox, double-sided. So we want to be able to see both sides. We don't want to just glue it in and not be able to see the back because there's still important information here. So what we're going to do whenever we have something that's double-sided is we're going to look to be on the page, on the side of the paper that is that inside spiral side. So if I'm putting my paper in on the correct letter I, Roman numeral, the left side of the page is where I'm going to be looking to glue so that when I glue it, it opens like a book. So when I flip it over, now it's on the right side. So I'm going to take my glue and I'm just going to get a little bit of glue out there. And I'm just going to kind of drag a really small line along the edge. Because remember, we want to be very liberal with our glue. So if you can see, I have that glue line across the edge. Now I'm going to put that in my notebook on the correct page. And voila, I have a little book page in my notebook. So I can open it and I can see the back and it's secured. So it's still on and in my notebook. Oh, glued and dry. That's my bad. But once dry, it will stay in here. You'll be able to look at the front and back and it's going to be that great resource for you.